The vengeful sun dipped low, casting the Ionian Sea in a bloody glow. Odysseus, a weathered tapestry of scars etched by 1,000 trials, stood on the windswept cliffs of Ithaca. The ghosts of the slain suitors still lingered in the halls, their accusatory stares a constant reminder of the bloody homecoming. Penelope's embrace, once a warm solace, now felt laced with a chilling distance. Rest gnawed at him, a restless demon that mocked the peace he craved. One moonlit night, whispers of a brewing conflict in the Sprotia reached his ears. The embers of a warrior's fire flickered awake within him. Leaving the reins of Ithaca to Telemachus, a young man burdened by the weight of his father's legacy, Odysseus embarked on a journey fueled by a yearning for forgotten glory. The Sprotia welcomed him with the clang of steel and the roar of battle. There, amidst the chaos, he found himself entangled with the alluring Queen Calidus. Their illicit passion, a forbidden dance under the watchful gaze of the gods, yielded a son Polypoetes. But fate, a fickle mistress, dealt a cruel hand. Calidus fell in battle, a casualty in a war that held no meaning for Odysseus. A heavy heart, a secret son, Odysseus returned to Ithaca, the weight of the past a crushing burden. On the mystical isle of Aiaia, bathed in perpetual twilight, another son thrived, Telegonus. Raised by the enigmatic Circe's days were filled with the whispers of the wind and the secrets of the sorceress queen. He yearned for something more, a void Circe's magic couldn't fill. One starlit evening, amidst the rustling of ancient scrolls and the murmur of forgotten prophecies, Circe revealed the truth. The blood of Odysseus flowed strong within him, a legacy more burden than blessing. Driven by a fierce longing to meet his father, Telegonus embarked on a perilous journey. Circe, her eyes filled with an unspoken sorrow, gifted him a spear, a weapon forged by the god Hephaestus himself. Its polished surface gleamed with an unnatural light, its tip adorned with the barbed stinger of a venomous stingray, a weapon both powerful and cursed. Days bled into weeks at sea, the vast expanse of the Aegean mocking Telegonus's yearning. A storm, unleashed by jealous gods, tossed his vessel like a cork in a whirlpool. When the tempest finally subsided, he found himself on an unfamiliar shore, the air thick with the scent of olive groves and the distant bleating of sheep. Desperate for supplies, Telegonus and his crew raided what appeared to be an abandoned herd. An enraged bellow shattered the peaceful afternoon. A weathered figure, his face a roadmap of hardship, emerged from the trees. It was Odysseus, years etching lines on his once heroic visage. Fury coloured his eyes, his weathered hand gripping the hilt of a familiar bronze sword. A savage battle erupted, the clash of steel echoing across the valley. Neither recognized the other, a son fighting his own sire, fueled by a desperate need for survival and the thirst for glory. Telegonus, fueled by youthful vigor and the weight of his unknown lineage, pressed the attack. Odysseus, weakened from years of hardship and haunted by the ghosts of his past, parried with waning strength. The fight reached a fever pitch, the clash of bronze a deafening symphony of war. Telegonus, with a desperate lunge, delivered a blow. The spear, cursed with the stingray's venom, found its mark. Odysseus crumpled to his knees, a look of horrifying realization dawning in his eyes. Who are you?" he gasped, his voice hoarse with pain. The sun, a crimson wound in the sky, cast long shadows across the battlefield. The answer, whispered on the wind, sent a jolt of terror through Telegonus. Grief, raw and primal, erupted from the young man. He threw himself down beside his fallen father, tears blurring his vision. I am Telegonus," he choked out, the name a bitter echo in the stillness. The revelation sent shockwaves through Ithaca. Penelope, draped in a shroud of grief, cradled the dying Odysseus in her arms. Telemachus, a young man robbed of his future, stared at the man who unknowingly slew his father. His gaze, filled with a potent mix of hatred and confusion, landed on Telegonus, the embodiment of a tragedy he could barely comprehend. Circe, summoned by the crows that feasted on the battlefield, arrived on the island shrouded in a tempest of emotions. Her eyes, usually filled with playful amusement, were clouded with a sorrow that chilled the very air. But amidst the grief, a flicker of understanding sparked in her ancient eyes. Using her magic, she stabilized Odysseus, temporarily banishing the venom, but even Circe's power had its limits. The stingray's venom, a cruel concoction of paralysis and agony, had already begun its insidious work. Days bled into a tormenting week. Odysseus lingered on the precipice of death, his once powerful body ravaged from within. Telegonus, consumed by remorse, remained by his father's side, a constant vigil of self-loathing. Penelope, her heart a battlefield of emotions, observed Telegonus with a guarded curiosity. The resemblance to Odysseus, though veiled by youth, was undeniable. She saw the glint of the same adventurous spirit in Telegonus's troubled eyes, a spirit that had, ironically, led to her husband's demise. One night, under the watchful gaze of a waning moon, Penelope approached Telegonus. Her voice, usually laced with quiet dignity, held a tremor of raw emotion. "Tell me," she rasped. "Tell me about your life before you came here." Telegonus, his voice choked with grief, recounted his upbringing on Aiaia, the yearning for a father he never knew, and the revelation that shook his very being. Penelope listened intently, her initial suspicions slowly morphing into a hesitant understanding. As days turned into a feverish vigil, Odysseus remained unconscious. Circe, her magic depleted by her desperate efforts to hold back death, finally conceded defeat. "Even the gods cannot rewrite fate," she declared, her voice heavy with sorrow. "He will soon join the shades." A tense silence descended upon the room. Telemachus, his youthful face etched with a stoic resolve, finally spoke. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice laced with a barely concealed anger. Circe met his gaze, her eyes filled with a sorrowful wisdom. "A terrible mistake has been made," she conceded, "but vengeance will only breed more bloodshed. The choice now lies with you, Penelope. Will you condemn Telegonus to a life of exile, or can you find it in your heart to offer forgiveness?" For a long, agonizing moment, Penelope stood silent. She looked at Telegonus, his youthful face etched with despair, and then at Telemachus, his eyes burning with a barely contained hatred. In that moment, she saw not just the cause of her husband's demise, but a reflection of Odysseus himself, flawed, impulsive, yet ultimately driven by a yearning for connection. With a deep breath, Penelope finally spoke. "There can be no going back from what has transpired," she said, her voice surprisingly firm, "but revenge will not bring Odysseus back. Telegonus will face judgment. He will return to Aiaia and answer for his actions before the gods. But beyond that, he will stay. He will learn the ways of Ithaca, the legacy he inadvertently helped destroy." A flicker of hope ignited in Telegonus's eyes. Telemachus, however, remained unconvinced. "He killed our father," he roared, his voice thick with anger. "And he is your brother," Penelope countered, her voice surprisingly steady. "Whether you choose to accept him or not, that is the truth." Telemachus remained silent, the weight of her words settling upon him. In the end, it was Circe who intervened. "Odysseus's journey is at an end," she declared, her voice echoing with an otherworldly power. "But the story continues. Let this tragedy be a lesson, a testament to the capriciousness of fate and the enduring power of family, even in its most unexpected forms." With that, she bent over Odysseus and closed his eyelids. A deep sigh escaped his lips, a final release from the tormenting grip of the venom. Tears welled up in Penelope's eyes as she cradled her husband's head for the last time. Telegonus, his heart a maelstrom of emotions, knelt beside them, a son forever bound to his father by a tragic yet undeniable bond. Thus, the lost son found his place in the kingdom he inadvertently destroyed. Telegonus, haunted by his actions, spent his days learning the ways of Ithaca, striving to earn the respect of the people he had unknowingly wronged. Telemachus, burdened by the weight of his father's legacy, grappled with the presence of his newfound brother. And Penelope, the woman who had weathered countless storms, found herself the unexpected anchor in a sea of grief, forging a fragile peace amidst the ashes of tragedy. The song of the stingray spear became a cautionary tale whispered through generations, a reminder that even the greatest heroes can be felled by unforeseen twists of fate, and that forgiveness, however difficult, can be the only path to healing.